When Thomas was only 9 years old, he came dragging home a busted old radio he'd fished out of somebody's trash pile on East 8th Street. It was cracked, dusty, missing a knob, and hadn't made a sound in probably 20 years. He looked up at me with those ocean blue eyes and asked, "Mom, if I fix it, do you think it can sing again?" I knelt down, wiped the dirt off his cheek, and told him, "Son, anything that's ever had music in it can sing again, if somebody loves it enough to listen." For 2 straight weeks, he lived at the kitchen table with that radio cracked wide open. Wires everywhere, screws in an old teacup, flashlight under his chin long after bedtime. Then one Sunday morning, when I came back from Mass, Frank Sinatra was floating through our little apartment like nothing had ever been broken at all. Thomas just grinned and said, "See, Mom? Even trash can sing again if somebody stops long enough to hear the song still hiding inside." Today, the world calls him a billionaire, an innovator, a Forbes cover. I still see that 9-year-old boy who refused to let something beautiful stay broken. This is the story of the kid who started by making one thrown-away radio sing again and never stopped until he taught a whole country's worth of forgotten dreams how to find their voice. Come sit with me. Let me tell you how my little boy went from fixing junk in a South Boston kitchen to fixing hope across America. One stubborn, beautiful note at a time. This is the story of my son, Thomas James Callahan. I am going to tell it the only way I know how, like a mother who still sees the muddy knees behind the custom suit, who still hears the little boy voice asking why behind the keynote speeches. I will not hide the hard parts, because America is not built on fairy tales. She is built on people who kept going when the fairy tale fell apart. So pull up a chair, pour coffee the way Thomas likes it, black with just enough sugar to make you remember you're alive, and let me tell you about my boy. He arrived on the hottest day Boston had seen in 31 years, July 17th, 1985. The window unit in our second-floor apartment on East 8th Street wheezed like an old accordion, and the Red Sox were losing to the Angels on the radio. I remember the moment the doctor laid him on my chest. 8 pounds, 2 ounces of pure possibility, with a shock of dark hair and eyes the color of the Atlantic on a clear day. His father, Jack, stood beside the bed in his shipyard boots, still smelling of diesel and coffee, and whispered, "We're gonna be okay, Mags. Look what we made." We named him Thomas after my father, who drove a bread truck for 42 years, and James after Jack's. Ordinary names for what we believed would be an ordinary, happy life. The early years were small and sacred. We lived in a 2-bedroom railroad flat where the bathtub was in the kitchen, and the neighbors argued in 3 languages. Jack worked swing shifts at the Four River Shipyard in Quincy, and I picked up per diem hours in the ER at Boston City Hospital. Money was tight the way a too small shoe is tight. You walk anyway, but you feel every step. Yet there was laughter. There were Sunday dinners of shepherd's pie stretched with extra potatoes. There was Thomas at 18 months standing on a chair helping me stir sauce, his face smeared red like a tiny Italian chef. He learned to talk early and never really stopped. By 3, he was asking, "Mom, why does the moon follow us home?" By 4, he had taken apart the cordless phone because he wanted to see where the voices lived. I found the pieces lined up on the radiator cover like a science experiment. Jack just shook his head and said, "That's your son, Maggie. He's gonna fix the world or break it trying." Grade school was Our Lady of Perpetual Help on Broadway. Uniforms, nuns, the whole bit. Thomas was the kid who finished his math worksheet first and then helped the boy next to him. Sister Eileen Marie called him the gentle ringleader. He organized kickball leagues at recess with brackets taped inside his cubby. When the parish carnival needed a new game, 8-year-old Thomas built a plywood submarine periscope so kids could spot the saints across the playground. He charged a quarter a turn and raised enough to buy the church a new statue of St. Joseph. The priest told me later he had never seen a child understand so early that money is just frozen effort you can thaw out for someone else. But the world tilts, doesn't it? It tilted hard for us in the winter of 2001. Jack came home early from the yard one Friday, sat down at this very table, and told me the doctors found something on his lung x-ray. 6 months later, on a gray October morning in 2002, I buried my high school sweetheart under a sky the color of steel. I was 39 years old with a 6th grader who suddenly looked too tall for his blazer, and a mortgage that didn't care that my heart had stopped beating in rhythm. Thomas stood beside me at the cemetery, in his only suit, holding my hand so hard I still remembered the ache in my knuckles. That night he crawled into bed with me, the last time he ever did, and whispered, "I'm going to take care of you now, Mom." I cried into his hair that smelled like little boy's shampoo and the cold autumn air, and I let him believe for one night that children can carry their mothers. They can't, of course, but they can decide in that moment never to waste a single day, and that is what Thomas did. He threw himself into school like a life raft. Boston Latin took him on scholarship, and he rode the T every morning with his trumpet case and a backpack full of dreams. He played varsity soccer, edited the newspaper, and still came home to fix Mrs. O'Brien's computer on the 3rd floor because her son was deployed in Iraq and she couldn't figure out email. When colleges sent glossy brochures, Thomas taped the MIT one above his bed. "That's the plan, Mom," he said. "Get in, get out, get you out of this apartment." I told him to worry about being 17, not about me. Mothers lie sometimes. It's allowed. The night he got the acceptance letter, thick envelope, the good kind, he ran all the way from the mailbox on the corner to our door, screaming up the stairs like Paul Revere. We danced in the kitchen until the downstairs neighbor banged the broom on the ceiling. I called in sick to my shift, and we took the train to the North End and ate cannoli at Mike's until we were giddy with sugar and possibility. That was April 2003. By August, we were packing his life into my beat-up Corolla and driving him to Cambridge. I cried all the way home alone on the Mass Pike. But they were proud tears. A Southie kid with a full ride to MIT. Jackie would have busted every button on his shirt. MIT was a different universe. Thomas lived in Burton Connor his freshman year, surrounded by kids who had built robots before they could drive. He called me every Sunday night from the payphone in the hall because cell minutes were expensive. He told me about problem sets that took 40 hours, about professors who wrote on the board so fast that chalk screamed, about the girl from Palo Alto named Elena who could debug code faster than he could type it. I sent him care packages with homemade oatmeal raisin cookies and notes that said, "Remember who you are and whose you are." He still has every one of those notes in his shoebox under his bed in California. He graduated in 2007 summa cum laude with a degree in electrical engineering and computer science. And the world promptly fell apart. Lehman Brothers collapsed, the market bled, and engineering jobs evaporated. For 8 months, he lived back in his old bedroom, sending out hundreds of resumes while I worked double shifts at Mass General. Some nights I'd come home at midnight to find him asleep on the couch with his laptop glowing on his chest. I would cover him with the Afghan my own mother knitted and pray that tomorrow would be kinder. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. And honest seasons forge character the way fire forges steel. In March 2008, a small defense contractor in San Diego took a chance on him. He flew out for the interview with one suit and $50 in his pocket. They hired him on the spot. I drove him to Logan Airport again, same Corolla, new dreams. This time, I didn't cry until he was through security. He called me from the gate. "Mom, I'll send for you the minute I have a couch for you to sleep on." I told him to send for himself first. Mothers lie sometimes. It's allowed. California agreed with him. Sunshine will do that. Within a year, he was leading a team on unmanned aerial systems. He sent me plane tickets every few months so I could visit. I would land at Lindbergh Field and he'd be waiting at baggage claim in shorts and flip-flops, taller and broader every time, hugging me so hard my feet left the ground. We'd drive up the coast to La Jolla, eat fish tacos, and talk until the stars came out. He told me about Elena, how she was getting her PhD at Stanford, how they were dreaming of starting something together. I liked her immediately when I met her. Dark curls, quick laugh, and eyes that looked at my son like he hung the moon. Good women do that for good men. By 2011, the itch to build his own thing became unbearable. He and Elena wrote a business plan on the back of a pizza box one night in Mountain View. They wanted to create software that helped small manufacturers talk to their suppliers in real time, something that would level the playing field against the giants. They called it Innovation Tech Solutions. The first office was Elena's garage in Menlo Park. Thomas slept on an air mattress between servers that hummed like angry bees. Investors told them they were crazy. Supply chain software? Boring. Come back when you have something sexy like social media. Thomas just smiled that slow Southeast smile and said, "Boring keeps the lights on." I flew out in the spring of 2012 with a cooler full of frozen meatballs and a heart full of worry. I found my son unshaven, living on Red Bull and hope, but happier than I'd ever seen him. He took me to the garage and showed me the prototype running on a laptop balanced on cinder blocks. "Mom, this is going to work," he said. "I can feel it in my bones, the way Dad used to feel weather in his bad knee." I kissed the top of his head and told him bones were good, but bank accounts were better. Then I went back to Boston and started a novena. Mothers pray sometimes. It's allowed. The breakthrough came from the least likely place, a third-generation machine shop in Fall River, Massachusetts, that made parts for fishing boats. The owner, Manny Souza, saw Thomas's demo at a trade show and said, "My grandson could build something like this, but he's deployed in Afghanistan. You help me keep his legacy alive, I'll be your first customer." That one contract kept them afloat long enough to land a Series A from a Midwest venture fund tired of funding another photo-sharing app. By 2015, they had 40 employees, real office space in San Francisco, and Thomas's face on the cover of Inc. magazine under the headline, "The Quiet Revolution in American Manufacturing." He and Elena married in September 2016 on a cliff in Big Sur, with the Pacific crashing below. I walked him down the aisle because his father couldn't. He cried when he saw me in my mother of the groom dress. Navy lace, same color as the ocean behind us. They wrote their own vows. Thomas promised to build things that last, the way my mother built a life out of love and night shifts. I had to borrow a tissue from the officiant. Their daughter, Lily Marguerite, arrived in 2018, red-faced and squalling with her father's lungs and her mother's determination. Thomas took 8 weeks of paternity leave, which raised eyebrows in Silicon Valley, and changed every diaper like it was an honor. When Jack David was born 2 years later, Thomas flew me out first class and put me up in their guest house in Palo Alto so I could be there the moment my second grandchild took his first breath. Holding that tiny boy, named after his grandfather, I understood the circle completing itself. The company went public in November 2020, at the height of the pandemic. The IPO, priced at $38 a share, and closed the first day at $114. Thomas became a billionaire on paper before breakfast. Reporters asked him how it felt. He said, "It feels like I have a bigger responsibility now." And he meant it. Within weeks, Innovatech open-sourced parts of its platform so any small business in America could use it for free during lockdown. They pivoted overnight to help restaurants manage ghost kitchens and manufacturers retool for PPE. Forbes called it the most patriotic $1 billion in history. Thomas just said, "We're Americans. We take care of our own." People assume great wealth changes you. With Thomas, it mostly magnified who he already was. He bought a house in Hillsborough with a guest cottage for me, close enough to watch the kids grow, far enough that I still have my own mailbox in Boston. He flies coaches to bring me out whenever I want. He and Elena started the Callahan Foundation, pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into STEM scholarships for kids from places like Southie and South Central and rural West Virginia. Every year on Jack's birthday, October 12th, they award the Jack Callahan Grit Grant to students who have lost a parent and still managed perfect attendance. Thomas says grit isn't something you're born with. It's something you're left with when everything else is taken. These days, my son is 40 years old, and the world asks him to sit on panels about AI ethics and climate tech. He serves on the board of the USO because he never forgot Manny Souza's grandson who came home safe from war. He coaches Lily's soccer team in a league where no one keeps score, but somehow every kid feels like a champion. And every Sunday night, no matter where in the world he is, he calls his mother. We talk about everything and nothing. The socks, the grandkids' latest antics, whether I've met anyone at the senior center. I haven't. I'm too busy being spoiled. Sometimes he still asks, "You okay on money, Mom?" I tell him the only thing I'm short on is time with him. Mother's tease. Sometimes. It's allowed. There is a photograph on my mantle taken last 4th of July. Thomas is holding Jack on his shoulders, Lily is mid-cartwheel on the grass, Elena is laughing with her head thrown back, and I'm in the background, setting the picnic table with red checkered cloth and burgers sizzling on the grill. Fireworks are just starting to bloom over the Charles River behind us. If you look closely, you can see the faint outline of the old neighborhood in the distance, the place where a boy learned that dreams have calluses. That is the real story, not the IPO or the magazine covers or the net worth lists. The real story is a mother who once worried her son would never get off the couch in 2008, now watching that same son teach his own children how to stand back up when they fall. The real story is America herself, messy and generous, broken and beautiful, raising kids who refuse to let her down. That is what my son Thomas has done with the years he was given. And if America ever doubts what she is still capable of, she should look at him. At all of them, really. The boys and girls from apartments with bathtubs in the kitchen who grow up to remind the world that the arc of this country still bends toward those who refuse to let go of hope. I have to go now. Lily and Jack are FaceTiming me to show me the fort they built in the living room, and Thomas is in the background pretending to be a monster. Same blue eyes, same laugh that sounds like his father's, same heart that decided long ago the world would be kinder because he is in it. That is enough for any mother. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. Don't forget to subscribe.